think we're off and live there. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to share my screen here momentarily and let my assignment buddy in. All right, beautiful. Oops, we still have some folks trying to get in, I think. There we go. Okay, can everybody see this okay? Give me a thumbs up. Beautiful. All right. So first things first, definitely if you could keep your microphones on silent for a bit, that would be helpful. But that said, I really do value your input and your participation, especially tonight and always. So feel free to jump in with any sort of questions or information that you might like to share as we go, because as you know, I like to be, really upfront with all of that kind of stuff. So jump in as you need to. And enjoy the show, hopefully here, okay? So what we're gonna be discussing tonight is how to be an immune nor'easter, all right? We're gonna really talk about building strong nutritional habits for optimal health and performance. That's our main goal tonight. As you know, my name is Lindy Kelly, and I'm best known as Coach K in these parts in Nor'easter Nation. Like I mentioned, this particular project that I'm presenting on tonight is for AP 770 class for my master's. I have one more class, capstone, this upcoming summer. So I'm getting really close to finishing it. I'm very excited. And presenting live to all of you is a really important piece of the whole gamut of being a nutritional professional. So this whole thing that we're doing tonight was designed specifically for Nor'easter Nation's benefit, especially in the COVID-19 era. As I started deciding what I was going to present on, obviously the number one factor that's most affecting us tonight and in these days is COVID-19 and the worry about that and all those other things. So it made good sense to talk about how to bolster our immune system and to also increase our athletic performance, because that's what we're here for, right? With playing in all of our sports here at UNE. So just a quick little bit about me. If you don't know my background, I was a Nor'easter once upon a time. I played women's basketball here from 2007 to 2011. I was lucky enough to be on a couple of championship teams, and that was really special for me. But I did not have a strength coach. I did not have a Coach K. And it was my dream to become the first strength coach here at UNE. And I'm living the dream, as most of you probably know, which is great. And I get to now coach all of you in the weight room. And then we're adding this piece with nutrition and trying to grow the sports performance and best service you and take care of you. So that is a bit of background about me and why we're here tonight. But most importantly, what's on our weather radar today? You know I love my Nor'easter puns, okay? We are going to discuss these 4 things specifically. And after this presentation, it is my sincere hope that you understand how the immune system works, kind of at least on a base operating level, and how it impacts athletic performance, that you can identify foods that are beneficial for immune system support, all right? That you can recognize the importance of matching energy intake with energy output as an athlete and how that ties into the immune system and performance. And then finally, how to learn how to build what we call immune nor'easter plates. And obviously the fun pun and play on color and words there with ImmUNE and UNE, okay? But when you go to the Rippich Commons, the dining hall, or you're in your apartment, or out to eat, I want you to understand how to best formulate a plate of food that's going to benefit you as an athlete and protect you at the same time. All right. Any questions thus far? Feeling good? Awesome. So initially, we're going to talk about the immune system. We're going to kind of spend some time there. Now, I know you are some super cerebral people, very, very smart people that I'm speaking to tonight. Most of you are health majors. You're at a health-related institution. Even if you're not a health major, you're very interested in all of this kind of stuff. So you might already know a little bit about it, but I wanted to give us some background, okay? So the immune system is a very complex physiological process that is constantly running in the background in our body. It's always working to protect our body from pathogens, invaders, bacteria, all the bad stuff that's out there. And there's good bacteria too, but it has to identify what's bad and what's good. You can think of it as your body's defense system, okay? Against illness, infection, and injury, those 3 I's. We don't want to deal with those. And I would even add inflammation, 4 I's as athletes. Those are the things that we don't want to deal with, okay? But our immune system helps us with that. And it really is just kind of think of it as your game day defensive strategy, all right? So most of us know that we review film, right? Before a big game where we watch film, our coaches will send us links. We watch film with our coaches and we try to pick up on patterns and different things that, you know, the opposing team that's going to be coming into town to play us might do. Our immune system is very similar. We get a scan. It scans our body all the time, trying to find those invaders and those kind of weaknesses and strengths and those sorts of things. So think of it as that first and foremost. It's kind of the film review. It's checking things out in our body all the time in the background. Once we understand what's in the background, we then can write a scouting report. And our immune system kind of does that, right? It finds invaders, it learns about them, and then it adapts so that next time it encounters one, it can kind of do what it needs to do with it. So that's what your scout report is, right? It tells you the tendencies of the other team. Your immune system can do that for us. And then finally, it has to execute on game day, right? We have to be able to execute our defensive strategy so that we can win the game. Our immune system is very similar, right? Once it identifies, scans, and identifies, it then has to deploy and be able to go on the offensive while after playing defense, right, to protect us. So hopefully that makes sense to you as athletes. And we also have to make in-game adjustments, right? So we have the best defensive strategy in the world. We get into the game and other teams decide to do something completely different, which is what COVID is, right? We've never seen it. It's new to the human race. We're trying to deal with it. And so we're really right now in an in-game adjustment. We're trying to figure it out on the fly, right? And do the very best we can. And our immune systems are doing the same. So it really is the ultimate team effort. Okay, this is great little field hockey corner here, Haley, this is for you. I don't know if we have any other field hockeys on, but you know, whenever there's a field hockey corner, everybody packs into the net, right? And they're trying to play the defense to make sure that then nobody's going to score in that kind of tight time and score situation. I want you to remember that the immune system has kind of two parts to it. There's an innate part and an acquired part. Innate means it's kind of already in our system. That would be like our physical barriers, like our skin, our mucous membranes, nasal hair. I know, lovely, okay? But that's why we've been working on breathing in through our nose in the weight room so much, right? Is to try to protect us from some pathogens, because our lungs and airways are already designed to kind of filter some of that stuff out. So those physical barriers are part of our innate system, right? And so is inflammation and fever. So when we get that initial kind of reaction to a pathogen, you know, we might get a spike or a fever, kind of feel really yucky for a little bit. That's why if you get an immunization, I know some people have already gotten the first round of the COVID shot, or maybe even their second, but you know how you kind of react to that a little bit. That's a good thing because your body's driving that reaction. There are specialized cells, lots of types of cells. We're going to focus on just a few today that help in the process of the immune system response. White blood cells, phagocytes, T and B cells, monocytes, neutrophils, memory cells. Okay, again, lots of them, more than we have time tonight to discuss. But it's important to remember that those are already part of our innate system, okay? Then we also have organs, obviously, that help us with this process. So our gut, our whole intestinal tract is a really important part of our immune system, and it really helps to filter and protect us from different bacteria, okay? Our spleen helps clean our system. Our lymph vessels are a big part of all of this as well as our thymus and some other different types of some organs. And those are more, you know, they're innate, they're part of us, but they do help in the acquired process that I'll explain more in a minute. And our bone marrow, so the central part of our bones, right, has all that stuff inside of it. Okay, now that spongy bone and the bone marrow inside helps create and store specialized cells, specifically white blood cells and red blood cells that are deployed and used as needed. Okay. So those are all really important parts, physical parts of the immune system. In terms of our acquisition with the immune system, it learns, right, over time. And then we learn how to react to different pathogens like I'd already mentioned, all right? But just remember, on its base level, that the immune system's first job is to play defense, okay? Once it intercepts and identifies the problem, it has to go on the offensive, and we've got to try to go the opposite direction with it and get ahead of it. With me so far? Okay, great. Awesome. So you can think, we're going to talk about these 4 specific types of cells right here, okay, and try to do this justice. But you can think of a macrophage, which is a specialized cell, as a hockey goalie, okay? It engulfs everything that comes at it, like Julia Benjamin does, okay? She's a tremendous ice hockey goalie, as you guys know. But, you know, she's engulfing that puck. The macrophage is the same idea. It's going to engulf that pathogen, okay, and then display its antigens on its surface. And what's going to happen is then that goalie is going to pass that puck. He's going to pass it on to the T helper cell. The T helper cell, finds that antigen and then passes it off to a B helper cell. Okay? And this B helper cell's job is really specific to find that bacteria's antigen and activate. It helps get activated by the T helper cell's proteins and then gets more bacteria involved. So it starts kind of gobbling everything up. But we're passing that puck again to the memory cells. And the memory cells are hopefully where we can score. Okay, we've pushed it up the ice, we've passed it from defenseman to forwardsman, and hopefully we can score. Okay, the B cells help create those memory cells, and that's what recognizes specific bacteria pathogens, you know, if we're attacked again by it in the future. Now, what's tricky is that those things also adapt. And so when we have to adapt again, it's like a constant game back and forth, right? Okay, I'm sure some of us have heard some of that in the news about COVID-19, right? How it's mutating a bit, there's different strains. So our body has to constantly be working on this process, much like we would in any sport where we're trying to score against the defense that's also changing, okay? So overall, the immune system's impact on performance, okay? Injury and illness are both major issues, as we know, for competitive athletes. I've been injured my fair share, which is why I became a strength coach, and I'm passionate about nutrition as well, because I want to make sure that all of my Nor'easters have the best 4 years possible, all right, to improve and enjoy the game that they love so much, playing at a collegiate level, all right? But these are some pretty telling facts. About 2/3 of illnesses missed, okay, or of, excuse me, 2/3 of illnesses cause missed training opportunities. All right, that's a tremendous amount. So we're not talking just run-of-the-mill things here. Even a common cold can become a big issue. 1/3 of those illnesses can result in performance restrictions. So that would mean like, okay, you're going to miss the game this weekend, not even just missing practice, right? But missing actual competition. And we never want to have to do that. We always want to represent the jersey and play, right? So we want to try to stay as healthy as we can. Athletes are extra susceptible to upper respiratory infections specifically. There's quite a bit of research on that. So when I say URI or upper respiratory infection, what I'm referring to is anything that kind of affects the sinuses, the throat, and or the lungs. So if you're prone to sinus infections, I know I used to be a lot, okay, until I changed some things nutritionally and stress-wise. We're breathing a ton as an athlete, right? We're just trying to get air in and out oxidatively, and that can also just affect our lungs, and we're bringing in lots of stuff bacteria-wise, again, while we work on breathing through the nose, okay? But that can add to the things that we're dealing with. This year, we're not traveling, so we're not dealing with being exposed to different people per se, right? But we're concerned about that in general. It's problematic. Illness in general is problematic for high intensity training and or training progression. So it can just get in the way of what you're trying to do as an athlete. And on a more serious note, it can lead to some pretty high level complications and or emergencies, okay? Like rhabdomyolysis. Has anybody ever heard of rhabdo? Okay, some nods I see, some shaking of the head. That's a whole nother presentation for another night, but I will explain it briefly because it does tie into illness and immune system issues, okay? Rhabdo at a very surface level is when your body's overworked to such an extent that it basically starts to shut down. Starts with your renal system and then goes from there, and you start kind of going into kidney failure. You never want that, okay? That's never a good thing. Unfortunately, it's been in the news a lot over the past few years, especially at the Division I level with swimming, looking at Tay there. It's been with swimming, soccer, football, it's been in the news, okay? But it can become a problem if we're not fueling ourselves and recovering the way we need to. So if we're already sick, that impacts us and then it makes it harder to recover. Okay, you following me on that? Things like exertional heat stroke can get worse. Myopericarditis, which is when you get like a little bit of inflammation around your heart lining and can get an infection there, and that's not good from existing infections. So again, we want to make sure that whatever we're dealing with, for an illness or an injury, we're clearing up and getting, better, and or better yet, which tonight's about, preventing it completely if we can, okay? Which brings me to getting the shutout. So my friend Will here, okay, he's a really good keeper, a really good goalie. Hopefully he's able to kind of defend the net, right? But as good goalies know, it's really hard to get a shutout, to get even one, meaning that no one scores against you, right? But think to yourself, have you ever made it through an entire collegiate season without getting sick, without getting some sort of upper respiratory issue or GI issue, or just feeling generally run down and kind of yucky, okay? Probably, I would guess not. I won't ask you to share that information, but I know I certainly never did. I had repetitive, constant kind of cycle of being ill. Even coaching. This is the first year that I haven't, and I'm kind of theorizing that maybe wearing masks helps quite a bit more than we think. It's kind of interesting, okay? But it's really hard for our body to get a shutout all the time. So we have to give it an assist. We have to help it out, all right? But there are specific reasons down here along the bottom that our body might have trouble getting that shutout, okay? One major reason are hard workouts. So if we're working out hard here in the weight room, you know that I'm great about adjusting for you, but if you're not prepared nutritionally and physically, And, even mentally too, it can be a slog and it can put a lot more strain on your body, right? Bacteria just in the environment in general. And this place, as you know, is a hospital these days. Okay, we're really, really on top of cleaning and masking, which PSA, there is no one in here and the doors are locked, which is why this is not on. Okay, normally that's on me all the time. There's just bacteria everywhere that we have to kind of worry about, right? Stress on our brain can be a lot too. Academically, this is an extremely high rigor, high level of rigor academically at this university. So I know that puts a lot of strain and stress on us, especially during certain times of year, hint, hint, wink, wink, finals week. We know how that tends to go, okay, and or midterms. It tends to spiral pretty quickly, okay? So it's not just about athletic performance, it's also academic, especially as a collegiate athlete. Impacted sleep. We're probably not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep all the time, I'm guessing, okay? Because I know how much we study. I know there's social interactions as well, other things, but prioritizing sleep or lack of prioritizing sleep can cause a lot of issues. We're going to spend most of our time focusing on nutrition tonight, that last piece, okay? That can really just make or break our ability to get the shutout, all right? So this is our first interactive kind of thing tonight with our presentation. We call it a bolt of inspiration. Again, I love my puns. So you'll need your piece of paper, okay? And pull that right in front of you if you have it. And if not, you can just follow along on screen. That's fine too. I'm going to show you a list of foods. Okay, what I want you to do is we're going to take about 90 seconds here, look at all of these foods, and you're going to make 4 categories on your paper. You're going to make a category that has vegetables and fruits, a category that has protein, a category that has carbohydrates, okay, and fats. We'll lump those together. And then we're going to make a category that has some fluids. I'm going to show fluids on the next slide, okay? So take some time here, look through these. There's 20 total on this slide, okay? Tell me which ones are in your diet already. So if you already eat some of these, okay, on the regular, you're going to write it into those columns. Go ahead and work on that. There you go. So studious, making me proud. Well done. There we go. Awesome. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so, my friends. And if you really need some extra time, you can let me know. We can always come back to this slide as well too, okay? But all of these things, as you can probably already start to gather, are very important for supporting a healthy immune system nutritionally, okay? And these are not the only things by any stretch of the imagination. They're a very small snippet of them, but they all fit categories that we're going to discuss in a little bit. But I just want you to get an understanding of things that you might already be eating to give you some confidence that, hey, I'm actually doing a pretty good job already, okay? I'm going to move to the next slide. Are we okay with that? Or do we need another minute? You can speak up if you do. No stress there. Okay, we're good. So the next slide, this is just the top of it part right here, fluids. Okay, so let me know which of these fluids you have. If you have them all, great. Okay, tea and coffee are those two kind of towards the middle and the last one, all right? But fruit juices and true fruit juices, not fruit cocktail juices, but like true juices, okay? Water, tea, milks, and coffee. Okay, so fluids are also obviously an important part of our diet, but there's certain ones that help us more than others. Not your Aroma Joe Rushes. Everybody's like, I feel attacked. You guys know I like my iced coffee too. We're working on it, right? Gonna have a treat once in a while. Okay, so there are 25 things total that I just showed you between the last slide, all right, and this slide. So what I want you to do is tally up how many of those foods and fluids that you already have in your diet from the 2 lists, and just circle the number at the bottom of the list in each column, okay? And then I want you to tally up how many carbohydrates and fats, how many proteins, and then the last one is how many colors you have on your list, colors specifically. Okay, so look at all the different colors. I'll go back to that slide for us for a moment, okay? There's a veritable rainbow on this slide. Oh, Haley's coming in late. Okay, we'll let her in. There are lots and lots of different things to put on here, okay? There are about, like I said, 25 things. If you are already eating 20 to 25 of these things, great job, okay? Chances are you're doing a great job supporting yourself, okay? If you were having like 15 to 20 of them, again, great job. You're still getting some really good stuff in there. Okay, maybe we can work on it and add more. If you're eating like at least 10 or less of these, at least you're eating some good food. Well done. But we definitely want to see if we can bolster you a bit more and see if we can fill in any of the gaps or things that are missing. So as we move on through the presentation, I want you to just kind of keep this list and just keep an eye on things that you're like, maybe I'm kind of missing this or this from my diet, right? Or I'm eating a lot more of this and not enough of that. That often happens with protein, for example. And I know we'll talk about barriers to fueling yourself well in a minute, but sometimes that can be a challenge with the dining hall, what they offer specifically. I see some heads nodding. If I'm making sense on that front. Okay, are we ready to move on from this for a moment? Okay, you got all those things tallied up. This is going to be important for our last activity, so make sure you hold on to this. Okay, awesome. So speaking of fueling, all right, you got to decide what kind of athlete you want to be. Do you want to be an athlete that runs on rocket fuel? Okay, the best kind of fuel there is, that's designed to get us up into outer space, sustained, long flight, that's explosive and clean running and all those good things. Do we want to be like, a Mack truck that has its purpose, right? It has a job, but it runs on diesel fuel and it puts out a lot of fumes. Okay, it's kind of slow and gets the job done. Maybe in positions in different sports, you might want to be one or the other. Okay, all I can think of is maybe a lineman, but even then I'd want them to be explosive in football, right? Probably, I'm guessing most of us want to be the rocket. We want to run on rocket fuel, okay? But your immune system and your athletic performance suffer when you don't do these three things specifically, okay? When you don't get enough vitamins and minerals in your diet, which we're going to talk a lot about in a moment, when you don't sleep enough or manage your stress levels, okay? I know a lot of us get stressed, I get it, me included, or eat enough food for your energy expenditure or recovery needs, okay? So those are the three things we're going to kind of focus on as we move forward, all right? So we want to think about making micro adjustments, and this is a bit of a play on words, okay? Micro meaning micronutrients. These are small things that we can add into our diet every day. They're going to make a big difference in our defensive strategy for our immune system, okay? Can everybody see what picture I have in the background there? What is that in the dining hall? Somebody call it out for me.
Mongolian grill.
The Mongolian grill. Thank you, Salma. Okay. So that Mongolian grill, I know we finally got it open, right? Mid-semester, last semester, I believe. I know it's open and operational right now. They, make your food on demand. You build your plate from the bar, right? You pass it over and they grill it up for you. There's protein, there's vegetables, there's great sources of carbohydrates, there's great oil, healthy fats, and all those sorts of things. That Mongolian grill can serve you literally in terms of your micronutrient and your macronutrient needs, okay? So in terms of vitamins, that first column, vitamin E, vitamin B, and vitamin D. There are a lot of vitamins, but those four specifically keep popping up in the research over and over again for athletes and their support within their immune system, okay? Sources of vitamin C would be obviously citrus fruits. I think we all understand that, right? But strawberries are also another great source. Vitamin E, okay, you can find that in seeds, healthy oils, etc. Vitamin E is very important for fighting inflammation, okay, and infection, and just promoting healing, as is vitamin K too. The vitamin B group across the board, you can find that in leafy greens and beans and citrus as well. So a lot of these things kind of cross the gamut. So you can check off lots of boxes with one or two things here too. And vitamin D is explicitly important for immune system health. And we don't get a lot of vitamin D here in Maine. Does anybody know why? Especially in the winter. What are we missing out on?
Sunlight.
Yes, Chris, sunlight, okay? We are just that far north of the latitudes that we don't get enough sunlight here, okay? We just don't, especially through the winter. And that is like 90% almost of our vitamin D synthesis is photosynthesis through our skin, okay? Biosynthesis, excuse me. And so we just don't get enough. So we have to bolster it through our diet, okay? Fortified foods like dairies, milks, etc., and cereal, cheeses, eggs, mushrooms are a great source of vitamin D. Fatty fish like salmon, okay? And I already mentioned the sunlight piece, but vitamin D is really important for supporting our immune system overall and our health as an athlete. It's just involved in, all of these are involved in all kinds of biosynthesis within the body in terms of cellular function. So how our cells replicate and take care of our body, okay? Minerals, same idea here in the middle, okay? Zinc, selenium, and iron, all right? Iron, especially for female athletes, that can be one where you tend to be low in iron, right? but you can get zinc from beef, turkey, and beans. They're theorized right now that zinc's really important for the olfactory kind of capacity of illness. So obviously one of the ways that bacteria enter our body quickly is through our mouth, okay, and our nose. So that can help kind of fight it there, but it's also important in a bunch of other functions within the body. Selenium you can get from tuna, other fishes, whole grains, brown rice, eggs, chicken, garlic, if you like it. Okay, so seasonings can also be a big help in protecting your immune system. And then, like I mentioned, iron's importance. Okay, iron helps the blood carry hemoglobin. Okay, and that helps us carry more oxygen. So here's looking at my cross-country athletes. Okay, you're the most aerobic creatures we have, right? So you need to be, everybody does, but you need to be using that oxygen and carrying that oxygen well and efficiently. Every athlete does, okay? And then lastly, we have some biochemical compounds like carotenoids, bioflavonoids, the fatty acids like omega-3 and omega-6, and probiotics, okay? But basically, carotenoids, sweet potatoes, spinach, carrots, anything, mostly it's got that orangish kind of color, okay? Those are super important. And sweet potatoes also double as a bit of a starch. So that's great to get some extra energy. You can't go wrong with a sweet potato. You just can't, okay? The bioflavonoids, berries, cherries, true fruit juices, teas, broccoli, those are all really important in fighting inflammation and protecting your body when there's oxidative stress, which is when we've worked out really hard. Your body then releases what are called free radicals to try to deal with all of it, but that can cause inflammation and stress within the body. And then that's never good either because it makes us sore, hurt, swelling, all those other things. We got to get that out. And those are things that help with that. Okay, so adding that to your daily diet, big double benefit there. The omega 3 and 6 fatty acids, you can get them from like salmon, fatty fishes, avocados, etc. Healthy fats, healthy cooking oils too, are really important because they help shuttle things where they need to go. And they do help with that inflammation aspect of things too, okay? And mitigating that kind of internal stress that we have going on in our bodies. Probiotics are especially interesting. They're almost their own kind of little thing. They're just live cultures. Has everybody heard of that before? Give me some nods, okay, or no's maybe too. But Greek yogurt, some vegetables, plant-based diet can be helpful with that too. But when we eat those live cultures, it basically helps line our gut, and it competes with bad bacteria. Okay, they're good bacteria that compete with the bad bacteria to kind of line our gut and for the resources in our gut. So it can really help protect us overall. Okay, they say that the gut's kind of like the second brain. It's got a ton of nerve endings, and it kind of has a mind of its own. And you know what I'm talking about, I think. Okay. But it's really important for us as athletes in general. So any questions on these micro adjustments, these micronutrients? These are the big things you want to hit, okay? Because they also, with our immune system, help lead to windows of opportunity. Okay, we have windows, snippets of time as athletes where it's really important for us to be able to kind of impact positively and negatively our immune system and our overall athletic performance. So the graph that you're seeing right now is called the inverted U theory. And basically what it relates to is that there's a bit of a Goldilocks effect, okay? As your risk of infection goes up, so does your intensity. Does that make sense? Okay, but there's a bit of a sweet spot, so Goldilocks effect there. Initially, if you have kind of an average level of activity, you're not really doing much, you're more sedentary, okay, but you're not getting enough exercise, then you still have kind of an average risk of infection. You could still get upper respiratory stuff and be hampered with some inflammation and those sorts of things. You could be just in that sweet spot in that inverted U, okay, and feeling just right where your intensity is kind of moderate and then your risk of infection is kind of low, okay? But where you most likely lie is in the too much kind of zone up here, okay? Where your intensity is very high for a sustained amount of time, and therefore your infection rate is a little bit higher, because what happens is that you have this kind of window of opportunity, like I mentioned, where your immune system function dips. It's called exercise-induced immunosuppression. So big fancy word for you work super hard, and now your body's kind of on a downtrend, right? And you've got to do something to help it bounce back in an effective manner. So you have about 24 to 72 hours where that dip's going to happen after intense exercise. Now, here's the thing. You got a hard practice on Monday, right? You're going to have another practice on Tuesday, and maybe you're going to play a game or run a race or swim a race or whatever it is on Wednesday. So you're not getting any rest for the weary, right? So you're doing that 3 times in a row. So now you're expanding those hours. You see how that becomes an exponential problem if we're not constantly refueling ourselves, okay? So what you do in that immediate 1 to 3 day window matters, even immediately post-exercise. Again, that's kind of another whole conversation. Nutrient timing times in a little bit, but we could get into the weeds on that too, right? But what you do initially after that hard exercise is going to make a big difference in how the rest of your week goes. You following me on that? Okay, awesome. So moving on from there, we have to understand what your individual and personal barriers are to fueling yourself well. So you got the hurdles in here. See the connection there? Okay. If you don't know your barriers, you don't know the things that you bump up against, how are you ever going to break through them? Okay, so that you can change some behaviors and gain some positive habits that are going to help support your immune system and your nutrition. Okay. Number one, maybe it's food availability on campus, right? Maybe it's the dining room hours. I know that can be a big challenge, especially right now where things are so limited with staffing, et cetera. I know that UNE Dining is doing their absolute best to accommodate everybody, but I know that it's still not enough, right? I see some nods because we know the dining room hours can be challenging. If you've got practice in the midst of dinner, how are you supposed to get dinner, right? But they do have the to-go options. Again, time management comes into it. We'll talk about that. And maybe it's the dining options. Maybe you're just not a huge fan of what's available to you, right? Maybe it's just that every time you go in, you'd love to go to the salad bar, but there's a long, long line at the salad bar. Maybe you'd love to visit the Mongolian grill, but there's a long line and you've got to get to class, right? I think we all run into those situations. Maybe it's that you're not sure what to eat, how to eat, or when to eat. You don't know how to eat. I know you know how to eat, but what I mean is how you structure your meal, okay? I already mentioned time management, right? But maybe it's the time management of things, okay? Maybe you're really struggling with that. Maybe it's that you have food allergies, sensitivities, or maybe it's for religious reasons, right? I had an athlete just the other day come to me and say, Coach, I'm really struggling to get enough protein. And I was like, okay, how come? Let's talk about it. And she was like, well, it's Lent. And I was like, oh, good point. And she said, but they're not serving any fish or other protein options on Fridays. And I'm really struggling with that. I was like, oh, really valid point. I took that right to the dining services committee, right? So sometimes I can help with those situations, but that definitely might be a barrier for you, right? Especially during certain times of year, Ramadan as well. And then lack of confidence maybe in your cooking skill. That would be me. I've never been a good cook. My husband's the chef in the family. I've been trying to learn and learn and learn, okay? But that's definitely been a barrier for me in my athletic journey and in my professional journey. I know that for sure. So if you're not confident in the kitchen and cooking and your food preparation or meal planning skills, that can make things a lot harder because you're just apt to just go for the easiest thing. And the easiest thing, as we know, is often not what's best for us. Okay, so think through maybe what some of those barriers are for you. And we're going to kind of address some of these as we go. And you can always stop in and ask me more about how I can help you with those specific things. Okay. We love strategy, though. Athletes love strategy. That's what we do. Okay. We strategize, we figure out ways to do the best we possibly can. So we need to now devise ourselves a strategy, that optimizes our recovery and supports, okay, those good habits for our immune system, utilizing nutrition. Okay. So we already mentioned understanding your energy intake and energy expenditure. We're about to spend some real time on that. You want to think about working backwards. Okay, so that's why I have rugby in here, because fun fact, right, for my rugby athletes, we can't pass forward. We have to pass laterally or backwards in order to go forward up the field, right? Okay, so if you say, okay, I know I have practice and lift tonight, and you work backwards from that, you now know how you need to fuel yourself for the day, right? And it might be different. Maybe you don't have practice the next day, so therefore you got to fuel yourself a little different. Or maybe you know you have a game and you've got, okay, I've got to get on the bus at a certain time in a normal year, right? We all kind of wish right now. But you've got to plan yourself accordingly. So working backwards is a really good strategy for that. And then prioritizing the good habits that protect yourself in that process. So we all hand washing, you know, I'm on you all the time about that in here, and you guys are so great about it. Okay. Getting that 7 to 9 or 10 hours of sleep a night. I know that seems like such a challenge and such a luxury, but you got to do it. You really got to find a way to let that head hit the pillow so you can get some sleep. Okay. Napping if you need to make up the difference as well. Eating enough calories to support your activity levels, including plenty of protein, carbohydrate, and healthy fats, those macronutrients, and then making sure you fill those meals out with vitamins and minerals, those micronutrients, okay? And drinking plenty of fluids, specifically water, right? So here's our bolt of inspiration number 2. I need you to have your piece of paper ready. Hopefully you have some space left on it. You will also need your calculator on your phone, or an actual calculator. Does anybody even have an actual calculator anymore? Monique does. If you're in any calculus classes or stuff, you probably do, but I digress. Anyway, you just need your calculator. Okay. So what we are going to do, I've helped some of us do this maybe once or twice in the past, but in a different format. This is so much more in depth, okay? What we're gonna do is actually do out how many calories you need to eat per day, okay? And this does not mean, by the way, that I need you to constantly think about all the calories you're eating. I just want you to understand how much energy intake you truly need for all of the wonderful expenditure that you put out, okay? So we're gonna start by calculating your base metabolic rate. And where you see blue here is where you're gonna plug in your number, okay? So I did mine at the very bottom where my mouse is circling right now, okay? Well, what you're gonna do, these are some factors. I didn't come up with them. These are done by research, okay? But 6.23 multiplied by your body weight in pounds, okay? And it's PEMDAS here, so order of operations, keep your parentheses in check, okay? Sorry for making you do math on a Sunday night. Hashtag I'm not sorry. This is important, okay? And then you're gonna add that to 12.7 times your height in inches, okay? So if I'm 5'7", I would do 12 times 5, that's 60, and add 7, so 67. Hopefully that helps you come up with that number, okay? And then you're gonna subtract out 6.8 times your age. 32, I don't wanna think about it. I had a discussion with somebody today when I realized that those born in 2001, I was in 7th grade. So our sophomores, I think for the most part, I was like, wow, getting up there, okay? But then you do out that math and you'll come out with the number of calories that you need per day. Is everybody there for the most part? If you're not, you can speak up, okay? Nope, Carly says she needs a minute. That's okay, we can take a second. We're good now, all right. So this, by the way, is not how much you actually need. This is just to maintain you as you are. Okay, this is just to help you survive day to day based on your current body weight and your height and your age. Okay, so base metabolic rate, what's kind of just on the constant background of running your body, all right? Less than this, certainly not good. You're gonna need a lot more than this based on your energy expenditures, okay? If we're not ready, speak up, but if we are, I'm gonna move to the next stage of this. Are we good? Okay, such smart people you are. So now, okay, step 2 here. Each of these pieces, okay, are gonna tell you based on your activity level where you should kind of be for the day. Okay, and this will tie in to building our immune nor'easter plates at the end, okay? So you're gonna take that base metabolic rate from step 1, okay, and we're gonna use it to calculate what's called your energy expended physical activity, or EEPA, okay? So what you're gonna do is take your base metabolic rate and you're gonna multiply it by an activity level factor. Those are down here on the left, okay? So you'll see where I put in blue your calories, you multiply it by the number beside it. Okay, so I want you to do that out for these 5 stages. So go ahead and work on that. Okay, the first one is 1200, and that's for a sedentary situation. So that's if potentially if you're dealing with an injury, right? And you truly can't do anything right now. Or maybe, you know, some of us have had the virus, right? Or have something going on as well too. And you just truly mono maybe, right? And you can't do anything right now. So injury or illness that's forced you to be sedentary, this would be where you're at, okay? If you are at a point where you kind of can do some stuff like 30 to 45 minutes a week or a day, excuse me, for 1 to 3 days per week, that would be the next stage, 1375, okay? Light intensity. The next stage is moderate intensity. So you're looking at 45 to 60 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week. The next stage is 1725, that's high intensity. So now you're looking more similar to what we do, 60 to 90 minutes at least. I know some of us usually are more than that, 6 to 7 days per week, okay? And then lastly, it's 1900 times your calories. That's very high intensity, 90 plus minutes of activity, 2 to 3 days per week, which I know most of us are doing more, plus lifts and strength and conditioning activity or rehab, etc. Okay, so I put all of my information over there on the right, okay? So you can see how my calorie needs grow based on what I need, okay? And my initial was 2130, so 2,130 calories that I needed just to be a best base metabolic rate to keep me, right? Okay, then if I'm just sedentary, it jumps and jumps and jumps. If I was back in my peak where you guys are, and I was competing in season for basketball, I would need about 4,000 calories. Okay, some eyes are popping right now like, whoa, did not think that was the case, okay? I know it's surprising, right? But we are severely under eating. We're just not getting enough in for what we need to put out. Okay. And what happens a lot is as you start kind of refueling your body and getting enough of the right kind of thing in, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I've never felt this good. I've never run this fast, right? All of a sudden your numbers in the weight room jump up. Maybe even your performance on your tests and academic type stuff jump up too. Okay. When you start fueling yourself appropriately. I certainly know I never did at your age. I'm paying a lot more attention to it now. And let me tell you, it makes a huge difference. Okay. It makes a huge difference. Are we good to move on? Speak up if you're not. Okay, awesome. So keep this. I want you to have this. Okay. You can enter it in any sort of, meal or calorie tracking app. MyFitnessPal is a great one. Chronometer is another great one. CRONO meter. Okay. Both of them are free or have free versions, and you can enter in your foods. They have all kinds of food banks, so you can find exactly what you're looking for, and it will give you a full readout of exactly what you had in your meal and your macro and micronutrient breakdown. So you can really understand how well you're fueling yourself. And even if you only did that, let's say once a week for a day, it would give you a really good understanding. And then you'll start learning patterns and how to fuel yourself without entering all the calories in. Make sense? Great. Okay. So here's some more tips based on everything we just talked about, just to kind of recap. All right. Make sure that you load your plate with color. Okay. Softball, they step up to that plate, they're ready to go. You got to do the same thing in the dining hall. Okay. Incorporate as many vegetables and fruits as you can into everything that you eat daily. Those bright colors are rich in vitamins and biochemical compounds and minerals that help your immune system in lots of different ways. They're hydrating and contain high amounts of water. We'll talk more about water in a second. They help keep you regular. Just saying, nobody wants to deal with that. Okay, especially as an athlete. So make sure you're having them, you have that in there. And they provide carbohydrates for energy too. So again, remember I mentioned some things that are a double whammy. They kind of help us in a good way in multiple ways, right? Drinking your water, like I mentioned, okay? Bring your water bottle with you all day long. Staying hydrated is so critical to your overall health. I love when I walk across campus and see you with your water bottles. Makes me so proud, okay? Because I know that you're ready to go. I love it when you come in with them here into the weight room and you're sipping on your water as you go, because sipping throughout the day is so much better than chugging right before practice or lift. It's not going to really benefit you a ton. It's just going to make you have to pee faster. Okay. But sipping throughout the water is going to help keep your tissues hydrated and keep your brain alert and help you stay healthy. Okay. But you want to aim to have at least clear, okay, or at least pale yellow urine. I know it's a weird thing to talk about, this chart over here on the right. Okay. But if you're a number 1, 2, or 3, doing great. Okay. If you're a 4, 5, or 6, you got to step it up. You got to get more water. Okay. If you are a 7 or an 8, you might want to think about telling someone. And I don't say that in jest. I mean that because we talked about rhabdomyolysis earlier. Okay. One of the first ways that it shows is by very, very dark colored urine that almost looks like coffee. Okay. And that would mean that you're breaking down too much protein in your body. So if you're really ill, if you've had the flu, potentially, I hope not COVID, or different situations, illness can impact your hydration status as well. Okay. So it's just important to let someone know. So hashtag check your pee. Okay. You know me, we got to come up with something fun here. And then lastly, here's a little bit tip for you. You want to drink about half your body weight in ounces every day. Okay. So Eric is joining us. Great. So I put my weight in, okay, divided by 2, so I would need about 107.5 ounces per day, or 332. Right. That would be my goal for the day. Okay. To make sure that I'm getting plenty of water. All right. Then we want to make sure you're getting plenty of protein for lots of different reasons. Okay. It supports your immune system, your athletic development, and just about every cellular function in your body, especially the immune system, because it's driven off of protein interaction. Okay. And amino acid interaction in a lot of ways. But that adequate protein in your diet helps muscle repair and rebuild from intense workouts. Okay. But again, like I just mentioned, it's not its only job, but I'd be remiss as a strength coach if I didn't mention that. Okay. But you want to aim to get, you can do this math out too if you'd like to on your paper. Okay. If you're a female, between 0.8 and 1.2 grams per kilogram. So to do the math out there, it's 2.2 kilograms. So you would take your body weight and divide it by 2.2. Okay. And then multiply it by that per gram. Okay. And then if you're a male, it's 1.2 to 1.7, a little bit of a range there. Okay. So for me, with my math, I would need 78 to 117 grams of protein per day, not in one meal, per day. Some people think that's per meal, and that's just craziness. Okay. But definitely throughout the day. And it can be found in obviously all meats, but some people are not meat eaters. Some people are vegetarian or pescatarian and other types of things, okay, or vegan. But we want to make sure that you understand you can create protein by comparing or, adding other protein sources, grains, vegetables, nuts, that kind of thing together. So for example, almonds and green beans make a complete protein, all the amino acids together. Okay, so you don't have to have meat in order to get plenty of protein. You just have to be a little bit more creative. Follow me on that? Okay. Protein powder, I know can be a thing that people bring up a lot. Should I have a protein shake? Do I need it? My first and foremost direct, kind of advice on that is that you can get everything you need from a whole food diet if you are committed to it. Okay, if you are committed to it. Supplements, again, a whole another presentation for a whole another day, and we can go down that road another day. But today's presentation is all about how to do it with whole foods. Okay. But protein can be broken down for energy. It takes a lot more to do it. Okay. But it's a bad thing. We don't want to go catabolic, which means that our muscles are being broken down, right? We're losing muscle mass to get energy. That's why generally we tend to lose a lot of body weight in season if we're not nutritionally supplying what we need. Does everybody kind of know what I mean by that? Okay. It's not just getting fit. Often it's that our body's eating up that muscle mass we have, and we can't have that. We need that to be healthy and to perform as an athlete. Okay. So this is a really fun recipe that I created for this course. I took it and adapted it several times for different purposes. And since we have a Moroccan campus, right, we have our Tangier, Morocco campus, I thought it'd be great to do a Moroccan recipe. So Selma actually was in with me one day and we were talking about it. And I decided to make it that evening, which was the coolest thing. So I made a turkey tagine kefta meatball recipe. Okay, so if you want to screenshot this, go ahead. I'm not going to go through the whole recipe. I just wanted to give you an example of a meal that would help you with this. Okay, it's got all kinds of fresh vegetables in it. It's got the protein in it that you need. It does take a little bit of time to prepare, but it's a great one to do with your roommates. Okay, all you really need is kind of a bigger skillet, and then you could just cook it in one pan. You just keep adding stuff as you go, and it's a great one to do with the roommates, okay, and or the teammates for a team dinner. And it's delicious. It's really considered a comfort food in Morocco. It's a really big part. Tagines in general are a big part of their culture. And this one has been modified to be a really good fit for student athletes. So this will give you an idea of the macronutrient kind of breakdown. This is from Chronometer, the app I mentioned earlier, but it's got 119 grams of protein. That's a lot. And remember, this is about 4 servings. So you'd break it down, right? Okay, so this would be a great one for me specifically with my breakdown, and probably many of you, to have a high protein meal. Okay, it's got eggs as well. Those are beneficial, like I mentioned, with all kinds of vitamins and micronutrients. So definitely give this one a shot if you have a few minutes someday. Okay, and tell me how it goes. I'd love to hear it. JJ liked it even. Imagine that. The 6-year-old liked it, so I was winning that day. So this brings us to our third bolt of inspiration. Okay, you're gonna need your paper. If you have a fresh piece, pull it out. If you don't stress, make the best of it, okay? But what we're going to do is work on building those ImmUNE Nor'easter performance plates. So I need you to draw 3 circles on your paper, about 6 inches big if you can. If not, you don't have much space, you can make them tiny, that's okay too, and just take notes as you need to. But I want you to have these as a reference point. By the way, I'm happy to share these slides with anybody that wants them via email so that you can kind of look back on them. Okay, and use them as your reference. So we're going to talk about building 3 different types of plates. Okay, and we used our logo here to make it really easy to remember as Nor'easters. The first is a cloud plate, and a cloud plate is a low to moderate intensity day. So think of a cloudy day. It's part of our logo. It's cool, right? I get it, but we generally don't have a ton of energy on cloud days, right? So maybe we don't need as much energy either. That's one way to remember it. Okay, we're going to have a lightning plate, and a lightning plate obviously got an explosive kind of connotation to it, right? Moderate to high intensity day, right? So that's a day where we're getting after it a bit more. And then when you see the whole storm cloud logo, okay, now it's a storm plate. That's a high or very high intensity day. It's game day. It's time to represent, okay? Or a really high intensity training effort so that we can be ready for game day. All right, so does everybody have their 3 circles drawn? I'm ready to go? Beautiful, okay? So we're gonna start with the cloud intensity day, all right? That light to moderate day. So you're going to split your plate like I did here. Half the plate, right straight down the middle, okay? Half the plate is going to be vegetables and fruits. And then you're going to split the other half into quarters. And then a quarter of that's going to be whole grains. And then another quarter of that is going to be lean proteins. Okay, so my objective with these 3 plates, by the way, is to talk about all 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is the breakfast meal. Okay, so for a cloud intensity day, it doesn't mean you eat this way for one day, like one meal. This is all 3 meals. So you could adapt this for lunch and dinner, if that makes sense. Okay, so what I want you to do is from that list you made earlier, we're going to tie this together. Okay, that list with all those awesome immune boosting and supporting foods. Okay, I want you to take maybe 1 or 2, maybe even 3 of those foods and write them in each section. Okay, so on where it's, excuse me, where it says vegetables and fruits, okay, I want you to maybe write in 2 or 3 things that you would love to have for breakfast this week at some point. And then extra point challenge here, if you send me either Instagram or via text one of these plates, I'm going to be the happiest strength coach. I'm going to be loving it. I'll share them on Instagram all week long. We'll have a challenge for it, see which team sends me more. Okay, so write 2 or 3 things for those vegetables or fruits, excuse me. Same thing for whole grains, like a whole grain bagel would be a great option. Okay, and then lean protein, I put in an omelet. I was best friends. Does anybody know Tammy in the dining hall? I don't know if anybody does anymore, but she's still there. But she used to be the one who did the eggs every morning. That was best friend. She knew how I wanted my eggs. I walked in the dining hall. She'd be like, I got you. I'm like, yes, thank you. Okay, that's when you know you've made it in the dining hall. When they make it on order for you, when they see you, okay? It means you're being a frequent flyer. But if you notice, the omelet also has mushrooms. Mushrooms were a good source of what? Who remembers? Anybody? Vitamin D, my friends, vitamin D. Okay, really important for lots of different athletic performance functions, etc. Okay. It also has spinach, those leafy greens, all kinds of good stuff in there. I think there's some cheese in there too. All right, so we get some healthy fats as well. But just remember, this is a 30 to 60-minute day, maybe light day, maybe an off day, definitely a recovery type day. Okay, are you ready to move on? Beautiful. You'll notice there's beverages too. There's water, maybe coffee, tea, juice, etc. Make sure you're getting your hydration in. So a lightning day, that moderate to high day, okay? You're going to split your plate as you see it. So kind of thirds here, okay? You have a quarter of your plate as your lean protein source, and then you're gonna do the other half there, okay, with whole grain and vegetables and fruit. Okay, now I did my best to give you an example. I like rice a lot. I pair that with a protein all the time, okay? This could be, what does this maybe have the makings of that happen in the forum? What do they make in the forum a lot? Somebody help me out.
Burritos.
Burrito balls. Okay. I had one for the first time this year on Friday. Oh, it was great. I missed them. But yeah, babe, a burrito bowl. So just because it looks like a plate in the infographic, I want to impress upon you, it doesn't have to look like that when you eat it. Okay. So it doesn't have to take this format. Maybe it's just the way that you measure it out. Okay. Or that you kind of think about how you put it together and you have an apple on the side. Follow me on that. Okay. So you're writing in the foods that you might like to have based on that list earlier. So 60 to 90 minutes of activity, definitely a practice day. We're definitely a practice day, maybe even a light lift. Okay, light lift is built in. All right, we ready to move on? Still with me? Okay. Lastly, that storm intensity day. All right, so split it into the proportions you see this time. We have half of our plate as whole grains, okay, and carbohydrates. A quarter of our plate are proteins, a quarter of our plate are veggies and or fruits, okay? Lunch, dinner, not that different. Honestly, there really isn't much that kind of separates the two in my mind. It's more so about the company you keep, right? Usually lunch is kind of quick, trying to make sure you get it in. Maybe you sit down and have time to eat it, but more often than not, I know, especially around here, that we're on the go, right? But dinner, maybe you have a chance to sit down with your teammates or your roommates and enjoy it, okay? So food is as much social, my friends, as it is kind of just, needed for nutrients. I want you to think about that too, okay? So make sure you're writing this in here. But it's 90 minutes plus of activity, definitely a game day, definitely at least a practice and a big lift day. Okay, so even if you came in and you saw me at 10 a.m. to lift and you had practice at 5 p.m., all 3 of your plates should look like this: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We still following that? Okay, we want to have that pattern in place for all 3 of my meals. We didn't really touch much on snacking today, but you'd certainly want to make sure you snack in between your meals. Okay, that can be important too. I just wanted to really focus on building important, the immune nourister plates. Okay, we good on this one? Excellent. All right. So here I would like you to unmute if you'd like to. You certainly don't have to, but I'd love the interaction. Okay, I know we have some teammates on here too, but I'd really like your thoughts. Okay, how can you encourage and support your teammates to do this? Obviously, not all 500 of us are here tonight, our student athlete population. So how can you help each other do this sort of thing? How can you help each other support your immune systems and form better habits to protect yourselves and improve your performance? Is anybody brave enough to help me out?
I can start first.
Oh, thanks, DJ.
So one of the things, I don't know if it's silly, but right before the championships, our cross country team for the girls, we have a Snapchat group chat and we say, see a sip, send a sip. And it's always like us with our water bottles. And sometimes we do it just during random hot days of the season, but that's one thing to help our water intake.
That is such an awesome example. I just got goosebumps, Danny. I want to be in on that. Include me in that because I'm not good at drinking my water. I get coaching and I get all cotton mouth and you know what I mean. But that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody else have anything similar? Kelsey, go ahead.
This past week, we did a challenge for swimming where we are competing of how many bottles of water we can each drink a day. And then at the end of the week, we'll add up the tally.
Awesome. That's great too. Just encouraging each other however we can. We're all competitors. So especially when we can't compete in a normal way, that's a great choice. Anybody else have anything for me? Ideas you've done in the past or things you might like to do in the future?
Send pictures of your plate to your friends.
Yeah, definitely, Carly. That's a good one. Great job. I think those are all great. Does anybody have anything else, or it's okay if you don't? Chris, go ahead. You unmute.
I was gonna say back when we could have like group meals and stuff in the dining hall, the whole cross country team would like sit around one giant table and we all eat for dinner.
That makes me so happy. I miss those days. We will get right back to that. Okay, we will get there. By the way, some of these pictures were definitely taken pre-COVID. I'll give you a quick story about the picture you see right now. Can you all see that, or are my boxes in the way? Now are you good? Okay. So this was on spring break with women's lacrosse. 2016. So they brought me down to drive a van around Florida to help them out. I got to do a few beach workouts with them and in the pool workout recovery, that kind of stuff. But I took advantage. I took my group to that I was driving in the van to Publix, which is a big supermarket in Florida. I don't know if anybody's ever been there. It's awesome. I was like, this is the greatest place ever. But I took them on a grocery store tour. So we walked around and we kind of spent time talking about all these different things that would help us. And that was what this picture kind of was born from, was all of them kind of showing what they had grabbed to bring back to the room. So that was one really cool example of ways that, around their team meals that they still had, but, ways that they could make sure that they were still fueling themselves appropriately for practice. Okay. So that's another example, but definitely social media. I mean, that's such an easy way, and or text to stay in touch. Women's ice hockey, for example, had asked me if they could do a challenge of some sort. So on their card, on the bottom of their card, they asked if I could have a challenge for nutrition. And one of them, their current card that's coming up, is going to have them texting a picture of their breakfast to me. And then they're going to send a picture to each other of their lunch on workout B. And on workout C, they're going to check in with each other about their water, much like a couple of you mentioned, right? So we can all do that. I can add that to everybody's upcoming card. That'd be fun too. But it's not so I can keep track of anybody, by the way. Okay. It's just so that if you wanted help with things, cool. Or if it helps you to have accountability to share, even better. I don't have to be involved. Your head coaches don't have to be involved. But certainly you as, your teammates, that's such an important thing to help each other. We're social creatures and we need each other to do well. Follow? Great. Okay. Look at this. So instant replay, let's walk it back. Okay. This is your checklist. Okay. Everybody take a picture of this, please. I want to see the phones out. Okay. Take a picture of this checklist right here. Okay. I want you to daily go through this. This is kind of our behavioral contract, if you will, if you want to call it that. Okay. From this presentation to take away. To improve your immune system response and your performance daily, I want you to prioritize your sleep and your recovery. Make sure you're getting sleep and recovery, okay? Make sure you're matching your energy in with your energy out. So whatever your daily calorie needs are for like I taught you how to calculate it, right? Okay, to look into it. I want you to match that with your ImmUNE nor'easter plate, okay? So to look the same, all right? That's making sure that you're getting those intensities is one step, and probably one of the biggest steps to ensure that you're going to protect yourself from, you know, pathogens and bacteria and all that other stuff. Okay. And be able to fight it off quickly too. That's the other thing. Okay. Sometimes we can't avoid it, but we want to be able to battle it quickly if we do. Okay. Make sure that you get those immune nor'easter plates to have lots of color, the protein that we need, and the whole grains, okay, and the healthy fats. I should have put that on there too. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, okay? Keep practicing the good hygiene that you have been. Been super proud of all the hand washing, the hand sanitizing, making sure that we're not touching our masks, that we're keeping our masks on in here. I mean, across campus, you've just been stellar. So well done there. Keep finding ways to battle your mental stressors, okay? I know that workouts can be a part of that. Being involved with your teammates can be a part of that. It's hard to be social these days and stay safe. We get that too. But there's always ways to just kind of combat that stress, because mental stress certainly affects physical stress. And then it's just a vicious cycle. So the more you can stay on top of that, the better. Okay. And sleep and nutrition are a big piece of it. 3-part thing there. And then finally, continue reaching out to your social circle for support. I just kind of belabored that point, but make sure that you're constantly reaching out and helping each other through everything. Okay, it's going to be just so critical to make sure that you're staying on top of all the pieces. Because maybe you're like, hey, if you stayed up on your contract today, have you hit all your check marks, right? And even if you hit out of these 6 check marks, if you hit 4, great, we're doing good. It doesn't have to be wholesale either. I want to make that point. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. The all or nothing mentality is not healthy, my friends. Okay, but if you can 80% of the time be effective, we're going to do great things and you're going to stay safe and healthy. Okay. And then you always have something to work on too. Okay. Maybe you didn't do so great with your water one day, but you do great the next day. Okay. Maybe you didn't get one of your meals. You know, I know it happens. Okay, great. Now, how can I think through that process? What tripped me up? What was my barrier and what did I bump against? How can I remove that barrier to get better? Okay. So, and I'm here to have, you know, constant conversation with you about all those things. Okay. So I wanted to give you some resources. I know many of you are aware of our trio of Instagram, okay, our Nor'easter Strength, Nor'easter Nutrition, and Nor'easter Mentality. Please follow those if you haven't. There's all kinds of good information on there for you. We will have a nutrition intern who will be working with us and providing us all kinds of information on this Nor'easter Nutrition site specifically, and she'll be giving us handouts that we'll be putting up and starting in March all throughout the weight room and talking with you guys. The Gatorade Sports Science Institute, if you like to read and you're kind of a research nut and kind of find some interesting stuff, they have a great search engine and all kinds of awesome research and articles. And this is just one particular link that is great to talk about nutrition and immunological support. Okay. I really had a fun time reading that one. And then the Sports Science Institute from the NCAA, they have a great forum on nutrition, sleep, and performance and how the 3 kind of tangle up and work together to help you get better. So they're always putting the best research into it for us, which you got to appreciate about the NCAA. Okay. So that concludes my presentation, but does anybody have any questions or things I could help you with in the moment or no? No, we're feeling pretty good. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to stop sharing at the moment. Okay. And again, I can't thank you enough for being here. Okay. Thank you enough for being here. Show me a thumbs up if you think it was helpful for you. Yes. Beautiful. Okay. I know it was helpful for me. Even the ones with the awesome. Thank you, people. Okay. I had the best time talking to you tonight. All right. I always do. You're the reason I do everything, the reason I get up in the morning and come in here. Okay. And enjoy what I do. So thank you so much for all of your attention tonight and taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you've got studying to get to. I know you got some downtime you got to get to, but you're the best. And I will see you all in the weight room this week. Sound good? All right. Hey, take care, everybody. Good job.